Joyce Silverman, founder of Joyce D. Silverman Interiors.
Hi, I'm Jackie.
Hi, I'm Shelly.
And we're the founders of By Jackie and Shelly.
Hi, I'm Cookie. And I'm Lydia. We're the founders of Deal Cane Shop.
Hi, my name is Sophia Cohen, founder of Harrison House.
Hi, this is Michelle Gindi from Buddha Bowls and Burpees.
Hey, I'm Judy Gavay, also known as Glossip Girl.
Hey, I'm Marcy.
And I'm Joni, and we're the founders of The Modern Mrs. Zach.
I'm Cookie Cohen. I'm the founder of Cocoa Box.
Hi, I'm Shirley Bonington, founder of Flowers by Shirley.
Hi, my name is Norma Cohen. I'm the founder of Norma Cohen Productions.
Hi, I'm Kim Daba from Women Exceed. Are you an entrepreneur already? Do you want to be an entrepreneur? Let us help scale your business. Let's get started.
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 Okay, welcome to Women Exceed's Let's Get Started event, our annual event. We're very excited to have you. I cannot believe another year has passed. I love seeing all of the familiar faces. With every day that passes, more and more community women are getting into the business world. And not only are they liking it, or killing it is what I meant, they are better off for it. Their children are better off for it. Their husbands are better off for it. I'm happy, whoops, 1 second. I'm having technical difficulties here. I hope tonight is not just about inspiration, but also about information and meaningful advice. I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't tell you what Exceed Network is doing as a community organization for men and women alike. Exceed is providing expert advice and education to founders of new and existing businesses. We have one-on-one business coaching and industry-specific mentors made up of community volunteers who give their time, effort, and priceless experience. You might have also heard that we offer a shared workspace at WeWork on 37th Street for those of you who need temporary space to get off the ground, and excellent guidance in our Exceed Network incubator. Now let me tell you specifically about Women Exceed. So many of our women have seen their business ventures scale beyond their expectations, thanks to clear and thoughtful advice from our advisors that have been down a similar road. Some of the business owners who've worked with our volunteers and advisors are here tonight. We're so happy to have you. None of them have gotten to where they are today without hard work. Tina Fey, yes, the comedian, Tina Fey, once said, "You're not in competition with women, you're in competition with everybody." While that might sound tough and a little competitive, it's true. And I believe that we are all in competition with ourselves. I insist on helping other businesswomen like me, but they have to want it. They have to be committed to their businesses. The women in our community are passionate, intelligent, creative, and we have a sixth sense that's part of our DNA. Everyone excels in different areas, especially in business. With you, Women Exceed evaluates what your business needs are, and we get the right mentors to feed into those areas of need. I don't think there's a level of businesswoman or man that can't use advice and mentorship to grow their business the right way from a mentor who is at the next level. So I am inviting you all of the entrepreneurs in this room here, to reach out to us for help, to let us help you scale, or even start something new. Please speak to any of us with a badge, or go to the Exceed website. I think we have that information behind me, to set up a time with one of our Exceed mentors. Tonight, to get a taste of excellent business advice, we are offering breakout sessions after our keynote speakers, Danielle and Jodie Snyder. We've selected 4 businesswomen to present and give discussions on 4 awesome topics, each at a different table. They are successful selling with my cousin, Yvette Sutton, founder of Gardenia Jewelry; digital marketing with Jackie Anzarut of When Coffee Meets Bagel, one of the hottest online dating sites; a topic dear to everyone's heart, making money with me, Kim Daba; starting a new venture with Sophia Cohen of Urban Pops. This will be done on rotation. We're doing 2 20-minute sessions. We'll make an announcement when we start the breakout sessions, and then 20 minutes later, you can go to another table to hear another topic. We invite you to interact with the presenters, ask questions, listen, learn. There are handouts, and at each respective table, take a look, learn, ask questions, and learn more about them. I really hope you all will enjoy tonight. Every woman deserves to see her business exceed. So let's get started. So now, I'd like to introduce our incredible moderator and speakers. The Kimberly Taylor Brands is an innovative direct-to-consumer apparel business model with a fresh, understated vibe. Please welcome community entrepreneur and this evening's moderator, the founder, Miss Kimberly Taylor. Come on up. From the few times we've interacted, it seems that Danielle and Jodie have serious energy and that they truly complement each other. I'm told one has a better head for business and the other is more creative and has tenacity. DanniJo started as a jewelry business, but it's poised and is an awesome lifestyle brand. Their site includes the entire world of DanniJo with health, travel, beauty, and motherhood. I love how they use social media to sell their products directly to the consumer. Being in the manufacturing space, I could completely relate to their business and what they must put into it. They both took great lengths to be here tonight. Please also welcome the founders and the co-owners of DanniJo, Danielle and Jodie Snyder. Who wants a microphone? Thank you. Got it.
I'm so sorry.
Hi, guys. Thank you all for coming out tonight, and thank you, Kim, for that wonderful introduction. I'm so excited to have Danielle and Jodie here with us tonight, and we can get the show on the road. Let's ask them everything we want to know. So, guys, I've watched your career from inception, actually, grow from a vintage-inspired jewelry collection to a full-blown lifestyle brand. Introduce us to the DanniJo world and what it embodies.
Should Joe or I introduce you? Oh, Jodie says me. Okay. Hi, everybody. So, DanniJo, where do I even start? We're sisters. We grew up in Jacksonville, Florida. We originally started making jewelry on our 4th floor walk-up in St. Mark's Place in New York, and approached Bergdorf Goodman and said, take us on consignment, just give it a go, and if it doesn't work out, you'll never hear from us again. And Beyonce bought a necklace our 2nd week in business. This was during the heart of the recession, so 11 years ago. And from that moment on, they carried the brand, and we used that as leverage to get into other stores. And obviously, the retail landscape has changed drastically. But now we are a community of sisters, which we like to say, and we're community first, commerce second. We specialize in statement jewelry and easy, ready-to-wear pieces that can be layered and take you from everyday life to vacation. Did I forget anything?
I mean, there's a lot, but that sums it up.
I can be very detail-oriented, so I tried to just hit bullet points.
All right, guys. Well, we've seen so many brands come and go. So what do you think the key to your staying power has been?
So my sister and I work together, as you know. Danielle tends to handle a little bit more creative, and I tend to handle a little bit more of the business side. But I think that
maybe use this.
That one's not really working well. I think that over the last 11 years, it's really important as a brand to be able to be nimble and change with the changing marketplace. And I think that really has set us aside. I mean, we started this, like Danielle said, out of an apartment with our own, like, not any investment. And we had to be creative and come up with interesting ways to get our product out there. And I think that we hit the market at a time where social media and Instagram and women, you know, and people in general just started shopping differently. And we were part of that generation. And so we were able to use Instagram and social media in ways that could kind of like build a community and grow a brand that sometimes big, you know, corporations weren't able to do because they didn't have that same connection and, you know, direct conversation with the consumer. So I think it's about listening and figuring out what the consumer wants And we've really stayed true to, growing the brand with our community. And obviously we've changed a lot over the last 10 and 11 years. And I think things that we were into and felt passionate about, we incorporated into our brand and our lifestyle. And I think that's how the brand kind of evolved. Oh, like this? Okay. Clearly I'm not good at microphones. Guys, did you get any of that?
Got it.
I apologize.
Okay, so 2 sisters working together. What are your different roles in the business?
So I think Jodie touched on it, but I'm 3 years younger. Everyone thinks we're Irish twins, but I actually am 3 years younger, even though I look 20 years older. No, I'm just kidding, I don't. And I do more of the creative. My sister does more of the business. It's funny because I actually had a girl that I met at an event 3 weeks ago in the Hamptons call me and say, I have a jewelry company. This is so random, but we met at this event. I give my number to everybody, which don't ask me because I'll just give it to you. And she said, we met at this event, and I was just wondering what it's like working with your sister. I haven't even told you this. And is it worth bringing my sister into my business? I've had my jewelry company for a couple years now, and I'm thinking about my sister becoming my business partner. What are your thoughts? And I said, it's not for everyone. I've had the most incredible experience with my sister, but we are totally yin and yang. And in some ways, Jodie's like one of our parents, and in other ways, I'm like the other parent, and we're this perfect combination of the two. And that's not to say that it's always really easy, but it has been the most incredible, rewarding experience in my life having my best friend and my sister to build a business with, which is basically the same thing as making a baby, and which I don't know about, but she does, and probably all of you do. But it's either incredible or it's a disaster, and in our case, it's really worked in our favor because we do have very different personalities. I am more creative-minded. Jodie is more business-minded, and that's not to say that over the last 12 years we haven't rubbed off on each other, but it's important to recognize what each other's strengths are, and in my case, it's being creative and talking in circles, and in Jodie's, it's being detail-oriented and hitting the bullet points, and I think that's what makes for an amazing business.
Okay, so you guys are talented. You have the creative, you have the business side. Your brand is exploding. There are some things that maybe you're not an expert at, even though you're great at all the other things. What things do you outsource to other people that can maybe do it better than you so that you can focus on what you need to do?
So I think that, over the years, when you are building a company and you don't always have the budgets to hire all the people that you need for, everything that you're not good at. The one thing that I can say with anyone starting a company is interns were amazing. When we were first starting out, we had all these young girls that would come and kind of wanted to be involved in the business, and a lot of them became employees because they were so good and they were kind of like learning with us. But I do think that there's senior things that, like Danielle and I recognize we can't be good at everything. So we do outsource. When we launched clothing recently, it just kind of happened. About a year ago, we opened a store with CFDA and Cadillac in New York. We got this opportunity to open a store for a few months, backed by Cadillac, and we're obsessed with vintage. It's something that Danielle and I have been doing for years. And we felt like jewelry's amazing, but when you're doing a store, and especially right now, the way people shop, it's about experience and contextualizing the jewelry. With Instagram, people would say, what are you wearing? And we'd say, oh, this is vintage, and that's kind of the end of that conversation. So we, made a slip dress inspired by a vintage slip that we liked, just for the store, and sold out of them in like a few days. So we're like, wow, there's kind of something to this. And a year later, it really evolved, and now our ready-to-wear business is almost as big as our jewelry, but we didn't know a lot about ready-to-wear. So we quickly hired a showroom that specialized in ready-to-wear, and I think right now it's a lot about vacations and travel and experiences, and a lot of the other brands that they carried complemented DanniJo and seemed to be in the type of stores we wanted to be in. And that was something that we recognized. We know how to do everything with jewelry, but this is a learning curve, and we'd rather hire experts or people that have been doing this a lot longer than us, and I would say that was a smart move on our part.
I would say so. Jodie, how do you balance being a mom and a mogul? Many people in this room can relate to that. We want to know.
I think that it's actually interesting because I think being a mom makes you more efficient in a lot of ways. I think that, now getting a manicure and pedicure is such a luxury, and I think I took that for granted before, but it's the one time where it's just me. But at the end of the day, I love both. I love being a mom and I love our company. So I think it's I hate the word balance because it's really hard to find balance. But, I feel that I've accomplished being the best mom and being, the best business partner if when I'm a mom, that's what I'm focused on. And when I'm at business, when I'm at work during the day, I'm 100% focused on work because you can't be two places at once. But it has made me a lot more efficient. And I think from a business standpoint, it makes you want to be even more successful for your kids, especially my daughter's my oldest, and to show her kind of, she's obsessed with my sister too, but I think showing her that how women can create your own path and, everyone says set your mind, what is this expression? You can do whatever you set your heart to, or mind to.
Basically, if you can dream it, you can do it.
Yeah, and I think being an example, I want to be an example for her, so.
Which is why we're wearing rainbows.
She's the reason we started tie-dyeing.
This is a great
Inspiration. Yeah.
So tie-dye, everyone,
Let me ask Jodie the question. Jodie, how did we get into tie-dye hoodies? Which was our first, was that before or after the slip? It was after the slip, but it was when we realized, wait a second, we're onto something. We need to dress our woman head to toe.
So my daughter wanted a rainbow birthday party, and I'm not so much into kids merchandise. So I said, how can we make rainbow cool? So we started tie-dyeing at home for all of her friends these rainbow hoodies. And her birthday was in January, and all of the kids came and loved the hoodies, and we did iron-on patches and embellishments. And then all the parents, one of the dads said, well, where's my hoodie? Oh, that's a good idea. So we quickly, my daughter and I made the first little batch of 30 hoodies, and they sold out in a day on DanniJo, and now we've expanded that into dresses and tie-dyed everything. But she was this big source of inspiration.
Okay, so I would like to know, sorry to bring you to the bottom line, when did you guys start to see profit?
So I'm going to let Jodie talk because I'm creative and I shouldn't have been handed the mic.
So I think what's interesting is when we started, it was just Danielle and me and interns, and we handmade everything. So within a year and a half, we were profitable. What is interesting about growing a business is as you grow over the last 11 years, first of all, the landscape's changed and business has changed. So I think that we've definitely hit different points where we developed different collections and changed the business model to become profitable again. But I will say that without really focusing on our direct-to-consumer and expanding into other categories, when we started, we made all of our jewelry in New York. Now we make it all over the world because people really don't want to pay for New York labor anymore, unfortunately. Our clothing is all made in New York. But I think that it's adjusting your business to what's happening in the marketplace to remain profitable. And, luckily, we've been profitable for a long time now. But, with that being said, we're always reinvesting in the company to take it to the next level. And it's a lot more work than, when you sign up for it.
Oh, I know.
Kimberly knows.
I know all about that. Okay, so I would say that you guys are social media experts. I would say that the DanniJo world has exploded via social media. You guys were there when Instagram started. Your brand was already around when Instagram started. You sell all your product online. Your lifestyle reads through all of your content. What advice would you give to those building their brands online?
I think two things. So I do oversee a lot of our social. Obviously, there's a lot of overlap between my sister and I because we share a brain. But my forte was always storytelling, content creation, influencer relationships, and leveraging the small community that we initially had to grow into a much larger community through social media. So I think two things. One, figure out who you are and what you stand for. And it sounds like a really open-ended piece of advice, but in so many ways, it's as simple as that. And it doesn't happen overnight. You don't always figure out who you are as a brand or as a product within a finite period of time. It sort of just happens to you the way that my sister realized everyone was really into the tie-dye hoodie she was doing at her kid's birthday, because we saw that people were really reacting to that on social media. But figure out what you stand for, figure out what's important to you. There's very obvious ways to cheat, not cheat, but trick the algorithm, which is, naked photos or provocative photos or things that are sort of meant to be for attention arbitrage, to get people to pay attention and start sending your posts to other people. And I mean, everybody knows this isn't a secret that there's an algorithm. But I think in terms of building a true audience, it doesn't really matter how many likes you're getting. It matters what kind of content you're putting out, and if people resonate with it and it makes them want to go buy your product or talk about your brand or talk about you as a person in a positive way. So I think with social media, it's an incredible tool. It can be a dangerous tool, but in terms of how it's really been beneficial to us and the growth of our brand, it's through sharing our sisterhood, sharing parts of our lives that aren't so private that it's meant just for family, but finding that balance between what do people want to know about the people behind your product and how to also maintain a little bit of mystery. So
there's transparency and they see where it's coming from, and you guys are putting yourselves forward as the face of the brand.
Totally.
Okay, so we know that things are going great. Congratulations. We also would like to know, what is the biggest business challenge that you have had and overcome?
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge was we had been doing the same thing for a certain amount of years, and we were in the wholesale jewelry business. We were lucky that we had a website from day one, because when we started 11 years ago, I remember people saying, don't you think that your stores are going to be upset that you have a website? But that's not the way the world has evolved. And I think,
you.
Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
But I think that when we put it out there, our first website wasn't so great. But
that's important. Wait, because a lot of people in here have businesses, right? Raise your hand if you have a business. That's a good amount. Or raise your hand if you're about to start a business or thinking about it. Guys, we need more. But I think the thing that's important to recognize is they say that if you put up the perfect website or you put out the perfect product, you've waited too late. So there is a little bit of, you can't always be a perfectionist. You sort of have to learn a little bit on the job. And we did have sort of a wonky site to start, but we learned so much from being out there and putting ourselves out there.
Yeah, so I was going to say, we've seen over the last 11 years a lot of our contemporaries shut their brands, and it's not always easy in this landscape. But I think being true, touching on the last question, I also think that if you believe in yourself and your vision, you have to stay true to your vision, because, trends come and go, and the brands that really sustain themselves are giving a constant message and growing as a brand. And I think it's very important to evolve. We don't know everything, and everyone's going to hit roadblocks. Even if you're so successful, there's going to become times where the marketplace changes. And for us, making product in New York at a higher price point when all of these cheaper websites came out with fast fashion jewelry, it wasn't sustainable. So I think it took us a year and a half to really figure out we wanted to still have integrity and have manufacturing, even if it wasn't in New York, that we knew was from the right places, the right people, it was the right partner. We weren't just making things overseas without knowing who was making our product. And so that was a challenging time, because we were restructuring our business and really focusing on doubling down on direct-to-consumer. We still have retail partners. Neiman's is one of our biggest, and Shopbop. But our website has grown to our number one door and does the most business of anyone. And I think it was a learning curve, and you have to kind of step back and start over again. And sometimes that's not easy for people to do. And it's important as a brand to evolve.
Progress is never linear. So we want to know, what are your goals for the future of DanniJo?
So a few things. I think, like Jodie touched on earlier, the landscape has changed drastically. The fashion industry, department stores are dying. I mean, look what's happening with Barney's. Magazines are dying. They're going digital, or they're reinventing themselves. Just to say that they're dying doesn't mean it's going to be completely extinct. It just means, what does 2.0 look like? And I think that we've all learned that at one point it was editors, then it was influencers and bloggers, and now it's a hybrid of these, I like to say, influencers that have businesses, because there's a different set of, I like to think when Jodie and I are asked to do something, we say, okay, would I as a person want to be behind that? And also, would my brand want to be behind that? So it's a checks and balances that didn't exist with just bloggers or influencers. But, the world is shifting, and I think, there's not one way to do something. And I think we're living in a really interesting time right now, because when Jodie and I launched, we were in the heart of the recession. And we had both gotten fired from our jobs, which I think is something important to note that we kind of brushed over. The company I was working for at the time went bankrupt. Jodie's company was having financial problems. They restructured. I mean, it wasn't her company. It was the company she was working at. But I think it's, you really have to believe in what you're doing and feel the pulse of what's happening around you. And it's not just about reading the right publications or following what you think is the right brands. I think as women, there's something really important about your intuition and feeling something. And I think for us, we've been on this incredible journey together as sisters, and we've been able to sort of check in with each other. Do you feel that? Do you see that? Is this happening, or am I crazy? And I think it's important to surround yourself with people that you trust and get you and your passion. And yeah, I mean, just believe in yourself and know that the industries around you are transforming, and there isn't an exact roadmap to where you want to go. But if you are passionate about something, you will make it happen.
So be true to your brand, be true to yourself. Even if that means now that you're selling dresses, it's still part of your brand.
I think that's the thing. You can keep to your own vision, but that shouldn't, just because you have a vision or an aesthetic, like, we don't only have to do jewelry. It can open you up. And I think the way of the world now is, it's about experience, it's about travel, and it's about how do you link your brand to other things that are important in your lifestyle and your consumer's lifestyle. And that's how you grow a brand. I mean, we've done collaborations with people that it was organic. We loved them. We loved what they brought to the table. But I think we wanted to wear DanniJo head to toe. And so for us, it was like the clothing contextualized the jewelry. And so we're on this journey right now to evolve the brand. But I think it's important to be slow. And if you're trying something new, not do a million things at the same time. As we've gotten our brands evolved, we've gotten plenty of opportunities, but I always say too many opportunities are bad. If you can't stay focused and stay straight on a road and you're being pulled in 10 different directions and they're all great opportunities, you can't do one right. So I think Danielle and I always look at the bigger picture of, this is the path we're on, this is what's working, and this is the next step of where we want to take the brand.
Well, congratulations on expanding your brand. Congratulations on your staying power. Like I said before, we've seen so many brands come and go. It's been amazing to watch. I'd love to open up the floor to some questions. Do you guys have any questions for Danielle and Jodie? Let's take advantage of them being here. Sure.
Hi, I just wanted to know if you had any formal education in what you're doing now.
Sure. So I studied at Vanderbilt and studied psychology and Spanish, and Jodie studied business and PR. So random, right? And my sister studied business and PR. And that's the funny thing about, I think this is the thing that people don't tell you, is that it really doesn't matter what kind of education you had, and it really doesn't matter what you specialized in or studied. At the end of the day, you know what your strengths are, and you know what you're passionate about. And if you can find a balance between those two things. At the end of the day, you can live to work or work to live. And if you're not loving the day in, day out journey of what you're doing, you're in the wrong industry. It doesn't matter how much money you're making. So I think one of the things we didn't talk about is success and what success means to you. I always thought I was gonna be, my mom's a mental health counselor, so I always thought I love psychology, I love what makes people do what they do, and I thought I would be a counselor. And then my relationship with my sister was so strong, and I was creative and she was creative, and we had so much fun being together. And I remember an old friend of mine said, what's the point in getting to the top of the mountain if you have no one to share it with? And I think that's such an important part of building a business or a brand, even if you do it alone, making sure, start a company by yourself without a sibling or someone that you trust and think has a great skill set that's complementary to yours. The end game, like where are you going with it, and are you enjoying the day to day?
Thank you. Anyone else with questions? Sure.
First, I wanted to compliment both of you because you both seem very creative and both very business-wise. So really, it's a pleasure listening to both of you. I wanted to ask two questions. One, you said you make some things overseas. Are any of these tariffs that are going on with President Trump affecting you?
They are affecting us. I think basically we still make stuff in New York. All of our samples are made in New York. And a big part of our collection is still made in New York because we do believe in, we'd like to make everything here. But unfortunately, when you're in the wholesale business and you're selling to these department stores and you want to stay in business, you have to adjust to what's happening in the marketplace. Mm-hmm. And at wholesale, people are not spending the same amount of money that they used to on product that's made in the U.S. Making stuff overseas, it is cheaper than making it here. Obviously rents of New York and hiring people in New York City, it has cost to it. So the tariffs are affecting us, which we're not too excited about. But it's still, bottom line, it's still a more effective way to produce certain things than New York on
Thank
pricing.
You. Can I ask another question? Sure. You spoke at the end about limiting the time when you would expand your business to, you said you want to be a head to toe. Wouldn't you want to strike when your name is hot and when you're out there? How do you know when to wait for the next item that you would put out?
I do think Danielle and I have a lot of, we kind of do what we believe in. I feel like we're onto something. We have an intuition and we're passionate about certain things, and I think for so long, we started making jewelry when we were kids with our father's medical tools, which is not a traditional way to teach yourself how to make jewelry, but it worked for us. And it was something that just kept coming back to us. My sister was at Vanderbilt. For fun, we would have trunk shows. We were always making jewelry together. It was just something that we loved doing, and we felt a connection, and we felt that we were making things that we couldn't find on the market. And I think the same thing happened with clothing. We're obsessed with vintage, and we've been collecting it around the world for years, and have a pretty good vintage collection. But I think some vintage, it's not wearable, it falls apart. With 2 kids, it's not like practical in my day-to-day life. And it came a point where Danielle and I felt that there were basics that contextualize the jewelry and missing in the market, and at a price point that we felt women wanted to spend on a handmade dyed dress in New York. And we vintage wash it so you can put it in the washer and dryer. There were many things that we felt the time was right. And there's other things we're working on, but we're not ready to launch because we feel that we have further to go with the clothing.
Thank you. You made a buyer of me. I'm going to go to your website and check it out. So thank you.
Yes, we will, for sure.
Any other questions on the floor? Am I missing someone? Oh, sorry. Hi.
I'm curious, what were your jobs before you started your company?
So I graduated from Vanderbilt, and I had a nonprofit in college that fundraised for grassroots initiatives in Africa. And it's a long story, and I'm really bad at telling short stories, so I won't get into it. But I did that when I first moved to New York, and then I found a job on Craigslist, believe it or not, which, by the way, is a great way. We should start listing jobs on Craigslist. No, so many people that I met in San Francisco said they found their job on Craigslist. Anyways, whole other story, but that's nice for you guys to know. I found my job on Craigslist. I was working for a diamond jewelry designer in Great Neck. And I had just moved to New York, and my sister at the time was working for, well, I'm 3 years older than her, so when I moved to New York, I worked in men's fashion. I think this is a good lesson in life, though. I first moved to New York, didn't know what I wanted to do. I wanted to be in fashion, thought I wanted to be an editor, went to magazines, and wasn't sure that was the route I wanted to go. And then I got offered this job to be someone's assistant, thought it sounded cool, but then I was like, you know what, I don't think I'd be very good at that. I ended up in men's fashion, and I will say I worked at a family-run company that made neckties for a lot of big designers in the marketplace. And working at that company taught me a lot of things that I was able to apply to our business. I was running sales, but I was also involved in design and meeting buyers from these big companies. And after that, I ran private label sales at Sam Edelman Shoes. So I felt like, and I worked for Sam and Libby, and that's a family-run company too, and they were private at the time and took the company public. So I felt that my work experience was never doing exactly what we do, but it definitely helped us. And yeah, it was transferable to starting our own company.
Okay. Any more questions? Sure.
Oh, this is such a good question. So we went back and forth on this for so long. So for the first, how many years do you think? I think I was probably doing it myself for the first 10 years, which is yeah, but okay, let's call it 8 years. I mean, who cares? You know what I mean? A very good, almost a decade. So 8 years, which it takes a little piece of your soul out every time you post. I really believe that. But I think there's two things I'll say about that. One, I do think it was really important to hold the reins on it for so long to, in part, figure out who we were, what we wanted to say, what people reacted to, what they didn't react to. And to just learn about the customer, for me to be the one reading the comments or commenting on other people's accounts and whatnot. I do think I did learn a lot from that in terms of our brand storytelling. I don't think anybody realized when it launched how big it was going to be. And I do think as a brand, we were really at the forefront. Over the last couple of years, we've brought in team members that have started off assisting with it, where they would send us proposals for the day. We're on a group text, me and Jodie, and now we have someone fantastic running it. But even so, I think this is an important lesson to learn. It's like, on the one hand, if you ever want to be scalable, you have to learn to delegate. You have to. And on the other hand, you can't let go so much that you're no longer involved in the voice and what's said. So again, that annoying word, balance. But the good news is Jodie and I are both on those text messages. So when one of us isn't able to respond, the other one does. But yes, we do have someone now that's doing the day-to-day. Every once in a while, we'll be like, oh, we didn't like that. Like, why'd you post that? Or like that. Every once in a while. But yes, for the most part, we are still crazy hands-on. But we do have someone that's actually posting. Did that answer your question? And then I think there was one more question. Yeah, go ahead. Do you want a microphone? Can you hear me? Yes.
Yeah.
So can you be more specific about how you went from your apartment making jewelry walking to Bergdorf Goodman? Like, how did you get an appointment?
How did you get an appointment at Bergdorf Goodman?
So
you were working out of your home. How did you get your foot in the door?
Don't know my sister. That's the answer. So basically, my sister and I had both got fired from our jobs within a month of each other, and we were making jewelry out of our apartment, and we're like, this stuff's like really good. And we met with our accountant at the time, who had become a friend, and he said, we brought him the 12 pieces of jewelry. We're like, this is so amazing. This is gonna be major. Like, look how good it looks on us. And he was like, guys, like, go get sales. Like, you're gonna be living in cardboard boxes. Like, I don't care how fabulous you think you look in your jewelry, go make sales. So from that little coffee shop in Midtown, I cold called Bergdorf Goodman, and this adorable woman answered the phone. And again, side note, this was the heart of the recession, which is not all that different from what we're coming up on. And I said, it was the heart of the recession, so everything needed to be rethought. Sales were down across the board, so major brands that were performing were no longer performing at Bergdorf. Everything was sort of up in the air, and the assistant buyer answered the phone because the main buyer was out of town. And I said, "Hi, I'm Danielle. My sister and I have this label. I'm not trying to sell to you, but we're in the neighborhood, and we're just leaving our PR firm." I don't even know where it came up. I didn't even know what a PR firm was. And I said, "We're just leaving our PR firm, so we have the samples on us. Can we come by for 5 minutes, get your advice, and that's it?" And she's like, "Okay." I think she was so caught off guard. And so then we hopped in a cab. This is like pre-Uber. Hopped in a cab, like booked it uptown, went in, met Stephanie. And I think this is such an important lesson. Just be authentic. Whoever you are, like I'm a little zanier than my sister, which is why we're such a great yin and yang. And just be real. And I said, "Listen, like, here's what we're doing. We both got fired from our jobs. Our jewelry's great. What do you think? And does this thing have legs?" And she thought we were hilarious and was like, "You guys are like kind of cute, and like you kind of get, like, your style's kind of good. This looks a little," at the time she said it looked Henry Bendel. It was very edgy. Again, we're talking 12 years ago. She's like, it looks a little Henry Bendel. You could do this, you could do this, and you could do this. We said, "Great. So we'll be back in a week and a half and we'll bring you the new collection." And we did. And she said, "I don't have the ability to buy right now, but I do have the ability to put it on consignment. Let's test it out, see how it does, and then we can talk." And we're like, "Okay, cool. Take our 12 pieces. We'll go eat ramen noodles." And so she did, and then we got a phone call from this adorable saleswoman at the time named Norma, who said, "You're never gonna believe who just bought a necklace." And we said, "No, who bought it? Hey, oh my God, it's amazing. Someone bought a necklace. Great." It was a $690 necklace, gold chain called the Rucelia, massive. And I said, "Well, who bought it?" She said, "Beyonce." I was like, "Beyonce shops? Yes. Like, she goes in stores?" And she said she wore it. And that, sure enough, the following week and the following week and the following week, Beyonce was wearing it all over the world, on tour in Russia, at the Knicks game, in the streets of Tribeca, at Coachella, and all of a sudden we were on the map. And we were like, wow, we have to get a PR firm, and like we need to get this thing credited. And so I think part of it is just figuring it out and flying by the seat of your pants and just doing things that scare you, because for every one time you'll get a break like that where she's like, "I'll try it on consignment," you'll probably get 50 times where they're like shutting the door on your face. So you have to get very comfortable with rejection.
I have a question for you. I think a lot of the women that Exceed meets with have a hard time figuring out how much their services should cost them, how much their products should cost them, how much they should sell things for. And while it's about profitability, how did you figure out what your jewelry price range was, what your apparel price range should be?
So this is my best advice for anyone with products. I think that at the beginning, it's finding where do you fit in the marketplace. So we had a friend that launched a ready-to-wear line, 5 years ago, and our advice to her was, there's a lot of ready-to-wear out there, but if you're doing this and it's on trend, but it's at a price point that sets you apart. I mean, to be honest, like, who wants to buy it's like what happened to the shoe industry, because I used to work in the shoe industry. Designer shoes 15 years ago, they maybe were $300 to $500. Now the average full price designer shoe is $800 to $1,000. It's expensive. I mean, they were expensive to begin with, but I think that if you believe in the product that you're putting out there, and this is what happened with the Warby Parker model and the direct-to-consumer model. People love transparency, but they also want quality at a price that they don't have to think as much about. So I'm not saying make cheap product, but if you feel that you would pay that price for your product, but you think it justifies it with what's going on in the marketplace, I feel like that's a good place to start. And yes, it's very important to make sure that you're profitable and that you have enough margin to sustain your business. But I would say, to get your foot in the door, a lot of people, if you want space in a department store, or you want to outshine other people, you need to figure out what is your selling point that other people don't have. And I would start there, and you can always work backwards and figure out, okay, this is the price that I want to sell it at. What do I need to make it at to have this percentage? And it is a little bit of a conversation. There's not one right answer. I mean, The accessories business and the ready-to-wear business, completely different margins, different markup, different margins on the back end. But I would say surround yourself with people that know more than you. And, you can't be afraid to ask for help. Like, we learned a lot. I mean, I think working at the other two companies, I learned a lot about pricing and where you fit into a marketplace. But you should ask questions because it's really important to do market research. And all of the interns that come in at our company, we still have everybody go around to department stores, see where we fit in with other designers. And it's nice to know where you fit in and what you can be doing better and making adjustments.
Okay, I'd like to just, thank you. I'd like to just announce that Kimberly Taylor and DanniJo have a trunk show together. Can somebody tell me when that is?
Yay! Wednesday. And where's Kimberly?
Where? She's sitting down.
And check at DanniJo tomorrow and at Kimberly Taylor New York for details for where it is. But it's at Grace's home in Deal, so we hope you guys will all come. And 10% of the proceeds will be going to nonprofit organizations, but all of that info will be on our social media tomorrow. And Kimberly's, if you... No, we're doing it together. We will both have all the information, and Kimberly Taylor will be there, and we'll be there. But are we allowed to ask one question? Okay, so anybody can answer, but I have two questions. One, what brands are you guys obsessed with? It doesn't even have to be fashion. Like, who is speaking to you as a consumer? Because I think one of the problems now with the world is just we're overstimulated in fashion, in news, in every different arena. So who's speaking to you? Danielle Bernstein? That's a great example. We love Danielle. Who is it?
But you like her. I mean, obviously she has great style, but you like because behind the scenes on Insta Story and stuff, she's talking to you about like everything that's going on.
Their charm.
Right.
What brands speak to you?
DanniJo, obviously,
What else?
we're biased. I'm trying to think of who I'm impressed by. I mean, this is a really dumb example, and it's not going to mean anything to you guys, but I once saw this video like 5 years ago called The Girl Effect. Do you remember this?
I know it.
And it is I just get chills thinking about it. It's one of the most, I wish I somehow was like involved in that because you're all going to go Google it now. But it was one of the most powerful pieces of internet content I ever saw. And it was for a good cause, but it wasn't even just that. It was the storytelling, and it was so simple, and it's not a fashion brand, but in terms of a piece of marketing that touched me, it's called The Girl Effect. It's a video. But as far as brands, that's what I struggle with. I mean, I'm not your normal consumer because I work in fashion and because, we've been in the industry for 12 years, so we look at every garment or piece of jewelry or anything we're gonna buy differently than someone that doesn't work in the industry does. But I still, if I see a great garment, I don't care who the brand is. If I like how it feels on me and how it looks, I'm gonna buy it, and then I'm gonna talk about it. And so I do think, yes, on the one hand, it is really important to tell stories on Instagram and create this like brand and this lifestyle. But then on the flip side of that, I also think it's really important to just have an amazing product that speaks for itself. If you find it at some random multi-brand shop, you would buy it because you like it and not because you know the whole story of the brand.
Okay, guys, so we're going to wrap this up soon to move to our breakout sessions, but we want to know one piece of advice that you would give to your children, the entrepreneurs in the room. Give us your one piece of advice that you take away from all of this.
But I think it's just, be passionate about what you're doing, because passion really does, it leads us in everything we do. I think for Danielle and me, it's not always easy. 11 years of being in the fashion business isn't.
That is not a joke.
It's not always glamorous, but I think at the end of the day, I wake up and I love what I do, and leading by example. I I'm excited to like go into our office, and I love the girls, and we have one DanniJo dude. But I love the community that we've created. So I'm inspired, and I want my kids and the next generation to be inspired in whatever they're doing.
Danielle?
And my one piece of advice is so simple. Every single person in this room can do it, and you're probably going to laugh, but it's just be kind. I think so much of the fashion industry, it sounds so silly, but so much of the fashion industry is based on this notion of you're in or you're out, or like you want to sit with the cool kids and you don't want to sit with the losers. Like, it's a glorified middle school. And I think ultimately what I've learned in the last 12 years having a brand with my sister is just, she's the most important person. I mean, my husband is, but she's the most important person to me.
Danielle was on the cover of Brides.
And my sister planned everything and did everything, and she makes me feel important and special, and we've been in this business together for 11 and a half years, and I think it's just about people. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you're killing it and you're making $1 bajillion. If you hate the life that you've built and you don't really like the people that surround you, at the end of the day, you're the sum of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. And I counted mine out the other day, and my top 4 is my husband, my sister, my mom, and my dad. And I think, it's going to be different for everybody, but I think if you surround yourself in business and in life with people that really want the best for you, you're going to be a smashing success.
Thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much
Thank you
for
guys
joining
all
us.
so much for coming and making us feel so special. Thank you, Exceed and Kimberly for planning this.
Everybody, I hope you'll stay and go see the breakout sessions by topic. I think you'll learn a lot. Thank you for coming.